Starting us off on this list, and at number 10, the whole town went insane. In the 1920s, the population of a small town in Southern California went insane after they fiddled around with the Ouija board. It all began when the police arrested 7 people after they stripped nude and began to act completely insane and unstable. Over the course of a few days, the insanity spread like wildfire throughout the town. The police officers were even found stripping down naked and running into stores and banks while yelling hysterically. The town hall officials were terrified that this insanity would spread to other nearby towns, so they brought in a ton of mental health specialists to examine all the people who went insane. Even though they weren't able to come to a conclusion, the government didn't want to take any risks, so they banned Ouija boards within their town limits. That is crazy. And at number 9, never play the Ouija board in a graveyard. I mean, who is doing it? When you're playing the Ouija board, you are contacting whatever spirits are around you. So logically, if you're playing your Ouija board in a graveyard, you're taking a pretty big risk. When you're in a graveyard, you are literally surrounded by spirits and ghosts and whatever is around you. So the chances of you contacting an evil or a wicked spirit, it increases dramatically. You also shouldn't use Ouija boards at the scene of an accident, a mass death, or murder. That's because the amount of violence that surrounds those places are more likely to attract spirits or demons who, they want to hurt you once you summon them. Figure 8 ironically comes into this list at number 8. Alright, so there are a lot of ways you can tell if the Ouija board session has gone horribly wrong. One of the major telltales is when your planchette moves through the alphabet or numbers, or if it hits the corners or makes a figure 8. If your planchette, that little figure thing you move around the board, if it begins to move across the board in any of these patterns, it's probably a good time to say goodbye. Bathe in holy water and go see a priest, because it is time to confess all of your sins. These are all the signs that your Ouija board have been taken over by an evil spirit or a demon. But the worst case scenario is if your planchette moves in a figure 8 position, because the evil spirits is letting you know that they have control of the board and you are no longer in control, my friend. So if you see the figure 8, you're supposed to immediately end the session by saying goodbye and just hope and pray that the evil spirits leave you alone. Next up at number 7, never burn a Ouija board. This is a big no-no. According to a popular urban legend, you are never supposed to burn a Ouija board no matter what. If you decide to burn a Ouija board, prepare to suffer from the consequences. Apparently, if you set a Ouija board on fire, you anger all of the spirits and ghosts who have made contact with you, and then they are released from the board and they're going to be in your house. A lot of people who have tried to get rid of the boards that by burning it have reported that when they set the board on fire, it made a loud, high-pitched screaming sound that haunts them while they sleep. And another person have actually reported that after they set their board on fire, they found one piece of the board, it survived, and it said the word yes. Not sure what that means, so make sure you guys don't burn your Ouija boards, unless you guys are prepared to suffer. You could release spirits into your home, and this brings us into number 6. If you manage to not get possessed by a demon after playing with the Ouija board, that doesn't mean that you won't have any negative consequences to deal with. You could easily release a bad spirit into your home. It is believed that Ouija boards act like portholes to other dimensions, and when you open up the board, you have no idea who you're going to be communicating with. Some spirits might appear to be friendly, but spirits are compulsive liars, and they will say anything to trick you. After you have the session with the board, you might start to hear some strange noises, things might start to move around your home, or your electrical devices might start to stop working on their own. Either way, you are going to need a lot of holy water and prayers, because once a demon or bad spirit haunts your home, you're gonna have a tough time getting rid of it. Gotta call like the Ghostbusters or someone. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in this. Okay, be careful, because in at number 5, you could be possessed if you play with the Ouija board. It is believed that when you play with the Ouija board, you're putting your life in danger, because you could be messing around with spirits or demons, and these guys have the ability to possess your body and soul. For me, I guess I don't have a problem with this because I don't have a soul. Well, there are countless reports of people being possessed by ghosts or demons after using the Ouija board. Over in Colombia, 20 students were rushed to the hospital after a Ouija board session went horribly wrong. A bunch of these students became hysterical and started to faint after they played with the Ouija board mobile app. They had a demonic look in their eyes, and they were shouting, "The devil is going to take me." Doctors couldn't find anything medically wrong with them, so they brought in a priest to try to help these possessed students. Looking through the planchette comes in on this list at number 4. According to the spooky urban legend, if you look through that device, you will see spirits that are surrounding you while you are playing the Ouija board. I advise you guys to not try this. I've never tried this because I am way too afraid to do so. So yeah, no thanks. I personally would rather not see all these creepy demons lurking over my shoulder. It's just best to just not know. But I know some people are curious, and I know a lot of you guys are curious. So you've probably tried this. Let me know what happens when you try it in the comment section below. And if nothing happened, just make up a story. Some of these older planchettes don't have a viewing glass, so I think this urban legend became more popular when the Ouija board movies were released, because they look through it. Okay, next up at number 3, always dismiss the spirit. If you ever played the Ouija board, you know one of the major rules is to say, goodbye spirits, like I'm done playing with you, night night, leave me alone now. If you don't do this, very bad things can happen. According to the urban legend, if you don't firmly say goodbye to the spirits, the portal remains open and they will be able to pass through and do whatever they want to you. Another urban legend claims that if you don't say goodbye to the spirits will demand that you give them a sacrifice, and if you don't give them one, they will send demons after you. Coincidentally, a lot of people who have failed to close the board have reportedly gone insane and now live in mental institutions. I'm not sure if I 100% believe that. So, but for this one, lesson learned. Don't forget to say goodbye, or better yet, how about you don't say hello? Don't start playing the game. The Ouija board can make you do things against your will, and this forces its way into number 2. Apparently, if you mess around with the Ouija board and you don't use it properly, demons or spirits can take control of your actions and thoughts and force you to do things that you never thought were possible. Take, for example, the murder of Brian Roach. He was slaughtered by his mother-in-law back in 2001 when the police interrogated her. She said that she was playing with the Ouija board when her 2 granddaughters and board told her to kill him. Later on, she also tried to kill the youngest daughter because she thought she was being possessed. And over in the UK, Paul Carroll drowned and dismembered the family dog, and his wife and kids took a bunch of prescription pills after the Ouija board session and tried to set the house on fire. And finally, in at number 1, I think we've done it again. We've saved the best for last, or worst for last in this case. We have Zuzu the demon. Zuzu is one of the most infamous demons that is known to cause havoc and scary paranormal activities during Ouija board sessions. No one knows the history of Zozo, but those who are unfortunate enough to contact Zozo have reported terrifying experiences. He is most often contacted through the Ouija board and has the potential to do some significant physical and mental harm to other users. One of the most famous encounters with Zozo was the man from Oklahoma. He first ran into this demon while he was playing the Ouija board with his girlfriend. At first, Zozo was sharing information with him about the spiritual world, so this made the man addicted to the Ouija board, but over time Zozo became much more sinister. The man played so often that he eventually had a nervous breakdown and was claiming that demons were constantly following him. Zozo even said that he would steal the spirits of his daughter. When she nearly died, the man attempted to perform an exorcism to get Zozo away from his family, but that just him off even more, so now he runs a website and warns people about the dangers about messing around with the Zozo the demon.
Coming into number 10, we have the Mexican possession. Americans 22-year-old Alexandra Huerto and her 23-year-old brother Sergio played with an Ouija board in a Mexican village along with their 18-year-old cousin Fernando. It seems they were visiting family in San Juan Talacento at the time. It seems that the trio entered a trance-like state, with Alexandra later succumbing to growling. The boys were also said to show signs of possession, saying that they were going blind and deaf and suffering hallucinations. The trio's story ended up in the Daily Mail, where we can see pictures of the possessed young adults. It seems that they were admitted to a hospital after a medical rescue. The town spokesman Victor Demessa said that it was very complicated. He said that the trio were suffering from involuntary movements which made transporting them difficult. Local priests refused to perform an exorcism on the American citizens as they weren't local churchgoers. The parents of the young adults said that they were saved with painkillers, anti-stress meds and eye drops. Whether or not they were actually possessed or they just convinced themselves that they were, we don't know. Either way, I have to say it was pretty terrifying. This girl managed to get possessed by an online Ouija board. This is very 21st century at number 9. That's right, at number 9 we have paramedics for Patricia. Patricia Quisepi was possessed after playing with an Ouija board app on her phone. Shocking footage of her purported demonic possession was recorded and then circulated on the internet. Doctors were called to the scene and she struggled for over half an hour before she was finally restrained. You can actually see some of the footage here. creepy. She does appear to be talking in a deep voice as if she is inhabited by a demon. The woman from Lima in Peru had been playing with her friends on the mobile version of the board game. Who knew spirits were so tech savvy? This next story is also from Peru. We have 30 screaming kids at number 8. In Peru in 2018, 30 kids suffered from mass hysteria after a kid brought in a Ouija board and a book of black magic to school. It turns out that the young girl was the daughter of a teacher in San Jose de Samarillo. This is in the Loreto region of Peru. Now there's a video of one of the girls who used the board acting possessed and screaming. It's very intense. It seems like she's saying this is your fault, amongst other things. The school involved suspended classes for a week following the incident, and parents of the children involved were said to have taken their kids to evangelical churches in the area. Coming into number 7, we have The Shattering. YouTuber Mellow Bird is known for his beliefs in the paranormal. His whole YouTube channel is made up of videos of ghosts, ghouls, and other paranormal occurrences. In one video, he is seen playing with an Ouija board, only this happens. Have a look. Okay, let's have a look even slower and see what we think. Is this legit? Honestly, it really does seem to shatter. It also seems that he had a very angry poltergeist in the room, like, yikes. This is, I guess, why you don't play with Ouija boards. I don't want glass in my hand. Coming into number 6, we have the McDonald's Ouija board. In 2014, this image of a Happy Meal was circulated online. Now it seems that the fast food giants were embracing Halloween by experimenting with spookier marketing. The only thing is, well, how appropriate is it to give your kids a tool to contact the dead? Aside a seance with your burger and fries? Like, I don't know. Honestly, it's not very appropriate at all, but it does turn out it was just a joke by actress and paranormal investigator Amy Bruni. That being said, hundreds of thousands of people believed it when her post on Facebook went viral. Scarily for Amy, the joke resulted in her receiving actual death threats. In August 2014, Amy tweeted, "True story, more than one person has wished death on me and my family because I posted the McDonald's Ouija board Happy Meal joke." I don't know, the internet's a sensitive place. Save your jokes. Save them. Okay, that may have been a joke, but bear this in mind. At number 5, we have The Best Seller. Scarier than a lot of things on this list, Hasbro Games, the kids board game company behind Operation, Bop It, Connect 4, and Hungry Hungry Hippos, actually own the rights to Ouija boards these days, and they're a big bestseller. Mediums are particularly disturbed by the success of the game, claiming that it is not a toy. Over the Christmas 2014 period, the game saw a particular upsurge in sales. Should we be worried that more and more people are contacting the dead as a means of entertainment? Honestly, I think so. Coming into number 4, we have With You. On BuzzFeed, editors asked members of the BuzzFeed community to write in their scary Ouija experiences. They then made a post compiling the responses. Now this story jumped out from Josie C41. She wrote, "I got my board after months of harmless paranormal activity in my house. When I contacted something, the planchette started doing figure of 8s across the board, which is a huge no-no. That means something demonic was present. I didn't touch it for months, but when I tried again, I asked where the spirit was in the room. It was at that point that she said her vision went spotty. She said I saw a vivid image in my head jerking back, and the words 'with you' were whispered into my ear by something I couldn't see." Woo! She went on to say that she sold the board, and honestly, I can't blame her. This is not what you want at all. Like, can you even imagine? You already think you're going mad, but you buy an Ouija board just to make sure that you aren't being haunted. Then it turns out that you are. There's a spirit, and it's not even a nice one, it's a nasty one. Coming into number 3, we have Zozo. Zozo is said to be a demon that regularly pops up when people use Ouija boards, and he is not a good presence. Zozo was first brought into wider public knowledge when a man named Darren Wayne Evans mentioned him on a message board called The True Ghost Tales. The thread from Evans was intended to warn others about the dangers of using an Ouija. He said, "During my experience with Ouija boards, one particular spirit always seemed compelled to make its presence known. Its name is Zozo." He continued the post by saying, "Today I refuse to even pronounce its name, as I believe the mere pronunciation of it can cause it to manifest itself. Too many times to count it has at first pretended to be a nice spirit, or pretended to be whomever I was trying to contact, but eventually it showed its true self, cussing me, threatening me and others present in the room. He also wrote that the demon attacked his family and caused him extreme bouts of bad luck. While some skeptics believe that Evans made up the demon, it seems that other mentions of Zozo have cropped up from unlucky Ouija users. It is thought that Zozo may be another name for the demon Pazuzu, the demon suspected in the Roland Doe case, the inspiration behind the Exorcist movie. Experts say that you know you're in the company of Zozo if the planchette is moving to the Z, or drawing a figure of 8 between the Z and the O. Zozo is also said to sometimes leave scratches on people's bodies. You know what? Maybe that's what happened here at number 2. That's right, at number 2 we have a full-on dose of scratching. 5 years ago, Redditor Bofontes wrote a post called "Do Not Use an Ouija Board." They said they were sharing an update and photos. They shared 3 scary pictures saying that this was what happened to them as a result of using a homemade Ouija board. The scratches on his back and chest look particularly nasty. Did he encounter Zozo? In this post he said that when he asked the spirit if it was them who scratched him, they said yes, replying that they were there specifically for him and they weren't gonna leave. Honestly, I feel like I need an update. One person who commented on the thread was very concerned. NinKiwi007 wrote, "Bro, one of those groups of scratches is the Trinity. You can guess its description by its name, 3 scratches. That means it's definitely something demonic. You need to leave. If it follows you, get help. Don't try to handle this by yourself. This is bad, and if you aren't already, you should take this very seriously." Okay, that's pretty stressful. I don't know what I would do other than not use an Ouija board. Finally, coming into number 1, we have The Story of Veronica. Some of you may have watched the popular Netflix movie Veronica, which is hailed as one of the best modern scary movies. The film itself is truly chilling, with some calling it too scary to even finish. It is about a girl in Madrid that accidentally invokes a demon when she gets a drop of her blood on the glass planchette. Things don't end so well for her, but I think that you should watch the movie. The reason I bring it up is that the film is actually loosely based on real life events, which I think are even scarier. Esther Gina Guattara's Lazaro died suddenly in August 1991, and her parents were convinced it was to do with her interest in the occult and playing with an Ouija board. It seems that the girl had joined a group, a seance, that went wrong, after which she was plagued by seizures and hallucinations. After her death around a year later, her parents were still haunted. They claimed that doors would slam in their home and shadowy figures would lurk in corners. They even said that they felt a spirit trying to physically harm them and went around turning crucifixes in their home upside down. In the end, her surviving family moved from their home and offloaded the possessed spirit of their dead daughter. Someone else's problem, I guess.
Starting us off at number 10, we have The Spirit. This one's from Reddit user Gotsby29, who shared that this occurred a few days after her ex had lost his friend in an airplane crash. The couple took out the Ouija board to use it, and the friend was very present, very scared, and very much wanting to communicate. Now the duo got a bit freaked out and decided to stop using it, and as soon as they did, the user felt this presence in the corner of the room. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, and all of a sudden the planchette started moving around the board, spelling words on its own. Exhausted and now drained, the user took a nap, and 30 exact minutes later she bolted out of bed because she saw the skeletal spirit standing in the corner of the room. The spirit ran at her and started screaming with a massive black mouth. The user obviously started screaming, and her boyfriend woke up and tried to get it off her, but then she just ran straight out of the house. Coming in at number 9 is the Mars Volta. Now the Mars Volta was an American progressive rock band that were active from 2001 to 2012. The guitarist of the band, Omar, bought an antique Ouija board at a flea market in Jerusalem as a birthday gift for lead singer of the band, Cedric. Now the two started playing with the board in the tour bus after their shows, and they ended up contacting a spirit named Goliath. Its responses were innocent at first, but Omar got nervous since Goliath started making threatening demands, and Cedric was getting more and more obsessed with contacting him. Omar ended up secretly burying the board, but that did nothing to stop Goliath. It usually never does. The band started being terrorized with mishaps and chaos after that point. Equipment started having severe problems, Omar's studio was wiped out in a freak flood, their drummer quit, and Cedric suffered from a critical foot injury. All this happened in such a short period of time, and it all happened after Omar got rid of the Ouija board, that he was convinced that these things were happening because of Goliath. And boy, you are not wrong. At At number 8 we have the horse. This one was shared by Redditor Overdose Baby Blue, who said her mum always used to warn her about using Ouija boards because of what she went through herself. The mum shared that during one instance of using a Ouija board, the spirit they were talking to seemed quite violent and actually had it in for her. She shrugged it off and got in her car to go home as everything was normal. But as she was driving home, a horse literally appeared out of nowhere and started running towards her car. The mum ended up hitting it and killing it in a very gruesome way, but she was 100% sure it was to do with the Ouija board, because how the hell would a random black horse appear in the middle of the city in the afternoon? That is not a usual habitat for horses. Like, where'd you come from? Filling on number 7 slot is the ancient spirit. This one comes from Reddit user Tessa B4, who said her and her friend met a female spirit through their Ouija board that claimed she was 40 years old when she died. She was born in 91 BC and spoke a now dead language, so the user and her friend could only ask yes or no questions. Turns out the way she died was absolutely horrible. Her own mother poisoned her and she had no idea why. The users then asked if that was all she wanted to share with them, and it was. Guess when you've been holding on to something like that for so long, you're just good with telling anyone who's willing to listen. Now at number 6 is 10 hours. So this one was shared by Reddit user Lena Resden, who shared when they were about 14 or 15, they played with the Ouija board quite often. One night at 9 PM, she was playing with her friend and started getting some very bizarre responses. The user couldn't remember them now since the incident happened 27 years ago, but the entity did say that he was from Malaysia and that he was there to protect them. That's apparently the last thing they remembered, because they blinked and it was suddenly 7 AM. They didn't go to bed or something, they just literally lost 10 hours of their life and they have no idea what happened in that time or where that time even went. Neither of them remember. They just looked at each other and boom, 7 AM. Like, excuse me? I want those 10 hours of my life back. Coming in at number 5 is Get the Boy. This was shared by an anonymous Redditor who said their friend mentioned that they had a Ouija board, so they decided to mess with it. Big no-no, my friend. Now initially their friend said no, but then she warmed up to the idea and agreed to get it out as long as she didn't have to participate. The user set it up and asked if anyone was there and got no response. Then, trying to be a cool teenager as they all are, they said if anything is in here and not talking, you're a coward. And again, after getting no response, they just put the board away. About a week later, the user was sleeping during a thunderstorm. How very cliche, I know. They woke up midway to complete darkness and tried going back to sleep. 30 seconds later, they heard someone or something whisper "Get the boy" in a very raspy voice. Thinking it was them just hearing things, the user went back to sleep to then hear "Get the boy" much louder before hearing a door slam shut downstairs. He up and got the hell out of there because he was the only one at home at the time, so we're not trying to mess with anyone. No Ouija entity, no. At number 4 is The Evidence. Now this one was shared by Fontes on Reddit, who shared 3 images of him claiming that's what happened to him after using a homemade Ouija board. He asked the entity a bunch of questions and also asked if the spirit was the one who had scratched his chest a week prior after using the board, and the spirit replied yes, and that it was here for him and that it was not going to leave him alone. These are the images that he shared. Now okay, obviously these look really bad, but I don't even know if this is a real one or not. These scratches could have come from another accident or an animal attack, I have no clue, but we kind of just have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But then again, who would just do this for internet clout? Actually, many people would do that for internet clout, but we are gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, people. Filling on number 3 slot is Careful What You Wish For. This one really gave me the creeps, to be honest, and was shared by Back in Om Nom Nam on Reddit. They shared that about 15 years back, his sister had some friends over and they were all watching a horror movie in the basement. Already the start of a very horrific night, just by the sounds of that. The friends also had a Ouija board with them, so they of course tried it. Dramatically, they started cussing at it, calling it fake and so forth, and then went back to watching the movie. Out of nowhere, all the lights and electricity goes out in the house and they all start screaming their heads off, which is, I mean, an accurate response. The TV then comes back on, blaring this awful noise, and at this point the girls are hysterically crying. The TV then turns off, and when it turns back on, the display is completely black except for the words "This is not a game anymore." I would have shot myself at that point. And at this point, everyone runs out of the house, completely forgetting their dog dog in there. When they finally built up the courage to come back, their dog was waiting on the front porch with the darkest eyes ever and the look of pure evil. Now at number 2 is Steve Part 1. So this one was shared by Reddit user KR Chrome. He said he was playing with a Ouija board with his friends when he was young. While they were playing, his 9-year-old bratty cousin came in asking to play, and they said no because he was too young, but that he was welcome to watch if he wanted to. He then snitched and told his mum, who then walked in, shouted at all the kids, snapped the board in half, and then stepped on the planchette. A month later, the user's aunt comes to visit again, and she is not looking good, my friend. She's super pale, has bags under her eyes, and is very nervous at everything that moves. Now the cousin couldn't come since he had fallen down the stairs and was in the hospital. The aunt then shares with the user's mum that the last month has been absolutely awful for her. She's been hearing weird noises at night. The cousin is apparently obsessed with an imaginary friend called Steve, which, by the way, was the same spirit the kids were talking to when they were playing with the Ouija board. See how everything's just connecting together now? Things around her house had started breaking, her drapes randomly caught on fire despite no fire source nearby, and her son was in the room the whole time and claimed Steve did it. Not believing him, the aunt grounded him and woke up the next morning with scratches all over her arms, and it doesn't even end there. She shared that she was so paranoid someone was breaking into her house every night that she even called the police, who found absolutely nothing. Paranoid with her kids still in the hospital, she moves in with the user's family for a while. Cliffhanger, on to part 2. And finally, at number 1 is Steve Part 2. So after the aunt moved in, the user and his family realized nothing was actually happening that was deemed odd. The aunt continued to see dark figures out of the corner of her eye, so nothing was going well for her. She's like the victim of this whole scenario. When her son was discharged from the hospital, she continued seeing things, and one day she saw him in the reflection of the mirror and started shouting at him for not being at school, and then his reflection just vanished. Turns out he never even left school. Child Protective Services then came to the house to see if she was fit to take care of her son, and turns out she wasn't, and so she lost custody of her child, and she was also admitted to a mental hospital. This story has so many twists and turns, I'm actually sweating, you guys. Like, this is where is this going? The user and his family would visit her regularly, and he eventually came clean and said her bad luck and deterioration was most likely because of her breaking the Ouija board, and she went off, flipping tables, screaming at the user, blaming it on him. She then went to grab a chair to attack him with it before an orderly came in and subdued her. A month later, she was found dead in the hospital because she had choked in her own room. They found a marble in her throat and weren't sure if it was accidental, whether it was self-inflicted, or whether Steve finally finished the job. And that's it for today's video, guys. Ouija boards are clearly never a good idea, no matter who, where, and when you use one. They're not good news regardless. They're never good news. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!